Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. I see everybody joining us. I'm going to wait just about maybe 15, 20 more seconds, make sure everybody is able to get on. But hello, thank you so much for joining me today. All right, it is time to get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. My name is Heather Brewer, and I am the Customer Support and Fulfillment Manager at Seller Shield. I have been with Seller Shield for just about 7 years now, and I handle and process all of our incoming claims when sellers reach out to us if they have a buyer dispute going on or it has already escalated to a claim or a demand letter. So today we are going to talk about why home sellers are getting sued and what you can do to protect your business. We have hundreds of disclosures filled out on our platform every single day, and approximately 1 in 5 home sellers purchase our home sale legal protection. And we have about 10% of our agents who purchase on behalf of their clients as well. So as I'm going through this, I see several of you have already put some things into the chat. So if you have any questions as I'm going through this, please feel free to pop those into the chat, and then I will answer all of your questions at the end of the webinar. All right, so let's get started and talk about our agenda. So first up, we're going to talk about home sale disputes and statistics. Then I'm going to share some real stories of claims that we have received at Seller Shield. I'm going to show you a snippet of an attorney interview discussing a recent claim that she won in court, and that is a Seller's Shield claim that she took to court and won for our home seller. Talk about buyer's remorse, and then talk about how Seller's Shield can help you. Now, unfortunately, home sale mediations and lawsuits have been up year over year, and that's according to Realtor Secure Transaction. And then brokerages of all sizes are exposed to legal threats and need to be proactive. So let's look at the Seller's Shield data and what we have seen in terms of claims and demand letters. So legal disputes that have been received by Seller's Shield is up 35% year over year. And just a little bit of context on that, this year in the month of January, we received 7 legal claims from home sellers who were going through some type of buyer dispute with their buyers. The average amount demanded on these legal disputes has also gone up. It is up 18% year over year. And then the average time between closing and contacting Seller Shield with an issue. So that has gone down to 4 months after the home closes, whereas previously the average when we would receive an issue that the sellers were aware of from the buyers was about 15 months. So that gap is getting a little bit smaller. Traditionally, home sale disputes are received by sellers within the 12 to 14-month mark after the home closes. And that was pretty consistent with what we were seeing. But as time has gone by, that gap is getting smaller, and home sellers are reaching out to us sooner after the home closes with some sort of issue going on with their buyer. And then how long does it take for a claim to close? Unfortunately, these can take months to years to be resolved and for them to close. That is an unfortunate reality with home sale claims. And that is something that Seller Shield is there to help your sellers through this process from start to finish, regardless of how long it takes for these claims to close. All right, now we're going to hear about some real stories that we have received from home sellers. Our first one is about a meth lab, or what the buyers accused the sellers of having in their home. So with this one, less than 2 months after the home sold, the buyers filed a restraining order and a temporary injunction. The court filing stated, plaintiff is entitled to the relief requested and is likely to prevail on fraud and deceptive trade practice claims because there is a fair likelihood that the defendants knowingly concealed a hazardous and unsafe condition at the residential property when they sold it to plaintiff, especially the existence of methamphetamine contamination at the premises, which was later detected by lab tests. That is word for word something that was in the documentation that the sellers received from the buyers. When the sellers contacted us about this, they were baffled. They sold their home for close to $1 million and were planning on taking a long vacation, and then they got served less than 2 months after the home closed. Now, if a seller purchases home sale legal protection, we will handle any threat. We find, hire, and pay for the legal defense and support them along the way. This one was actually settled 2 months later. And while I can't share all of the full details of the settlement agreement, we do know that the law firm that we hired spent 59 hours on this case to get it resolved. Next up, a bat infestation in the home. The home was vacant for about 3 weeks before the buyers moved in. After moving in, they began to hear scuffling in the walls. There was also a strong smell of urine and animal droppings on the third floor bedroom of the home. The buyers had an exterminator out to check, and they found that there were bats living in the attic. When the sellers contacted us, they were very upset and stated that they had never seen animal droppings or heard anything in the walls, and that they had not had any extermination companies out to treat bats. In this case, we were able to hire the sellers an attorney within 24 hours. The attorney sent a response to the buyers, and to date, this one was received, I believe, late last summer. But to date, there has not been any response back from the buyers about proceeding any further with this claim. Another one, this one concerns moisture and mold that was found in the home. We received a call from the seller 1 month after the home closed. In this one, there was an inspection done prior to the home closing. The inspector identified moisture in the walls and on the subfloor. So the seller had a plumber come out the next day to determine the cause. The only thing he was able to identify was that he noticed that there were signs of water entering via the dryer vent stack up in the attic. He advised the seller to get a roofer, which they did. The roofer then identified that there was a crack in the stack. The roofer repaired the crack. A professional flooring company also came out and applied a Kills product on the subfloor. A few days later, at the request of the buyers, the seller had someone out from a water remediation company to look at it. During that inspection, the water remediation tech noted certain areas with higher levels of moisture readings. He mentioned the way they could fix this would be by setting up fans for a few days to dry out the area, or allow the moisture to dry up naturally over time. As setting up these fans was going to be noisy and invasive to the seller's family, which they were still living there, they declined to do this and allow the moisture to dry up naturally on its own. The sellers explained their reasonings to the buyers who were still in the option period at this time, inviting them to cancel their offer if this was not to their liking. They opted to move forward anyway. Throughout the remaining days until closing and subsequent rent back period, the sellers did not identify any issues to the subfloor and walls were dry to the touch. In addition, they were told that a mold test was performed at the date of inspection and that the results had come back negative. After closing and the buyers had another After closing, the buyers had another mold test performed, and that was when mold was identified. This is when the buyers started threatening to sue the seller, and they eventually did engage a law firm, and they were demanding $9,000 from the sellers in order to remediate the mold that they found. Again, we hired the seller and attorney. The attorney reached out to the buyer and their attorney, and there was no response received back from the buyers. In this case, the buyers allowed the clock to run out. The statute of limitations ran out, and our legal defense team used only 7 hours to send a response to the buyers and then receive nothing back. All right, another one, flooding. This one was received 1 year after closing, and this one took about 4 months to be resolved. The home seller, who in this case also happened to be an agent, disclosed that the property flooded and that they had hired a company to install French drains. But then a bad storm hit and the house flooded after closing. So the buyer, in this case, who also happened to be an attorney, sent threatening messages to the seller for damages. The buyer threatened to sue her and report her license to the Texas Real Estate Commission. Our legal team spent 9 hours going back and forth with the buyer, and they eventually were able to reach a settlement. And then our final story In this case, the buyer rents the home relying on the representations made by the seller, the listing agent, and the MLS listing that advertised and represented that the home had the characteristics and enumerated in the MLS listing. Then the buyer's tenant left the home after 3 months, and the buyer found a long list of issues. Seller received a demand letter for $161,300. The letter stated that if the seller did not respond back within 60 days, the buyers would sue. This is a more recent one that was received, and the legal battle is still going on. Unfortunately, it has used 69 hours to date, and it is still ongoing. All right. Next up, we're going to listen to just a snippet of a video from one of our attorneys. That's not loading on my screen, however. Let's see.
My name's Rachel McKenna. I'm a partner with the law firm Almanza, Blackburn, Dickey and Mitchell.
So you recently took on a case that the seller purchased home sale legal protection from Seller Shield,
Okay.
and they purchased in June of 2020. Their home closed a month later. They reached out to us a month after that, and they had a demand letter. The letter stated that they failed to disclose an issue with the septic tank, and the buyers asked for about $10,000 to be paid in 14 days. They also made a claim against the inspection company, and then nothing happened. And then 10 months later in 2021, they sued. And then you tried the case in September of 2023.
Right.
Why did this one go to trial?
This one went to trial because I would say for a number of reasons. I think that we had a plaintiff or the buyer who was unrealistic in what they expected out of the process. I think that they thought that they didn't understand how the law applied to this, that somehow they were using a standard of, well, the sellers should have known this was wrong. Well, that's not what the legal standard is. That's not what the law requires from sellers. The law is, what did you know, right? And we want it that way, because otherwise that would be very very bad. Any seller could be sued for anything. That's not what we want. So I think in this case, we had a buyer who did not understand that, and I think he was also unrealistic in what his demands were. He wanted my clients to pay for an entire new septic system, and my clients are not millionaires. They're not, they're just average folks, with average jobs, and they didn't have 15 grand just sitting around waiting to pay for it. They use their money from selling the house to buy their next house and live with their family. And he just didn't seem to get that. And it's not usual that this cases go all the way like this, but it.
Okay, my apologies. That started playing before I had time to explain what we were watching. So this is a snippet of an interview with one of our attorneys who recently defended one of our home sellers in court. We watched just a preview of that interview. If you are interested in watching the full interview or reading our blog post about it, you are welcome to scan the QR code here on our screen. And you'll be able to see the whole interview is about 10-15 minutes long. And she goes into further detail about why this claim did go all the way to court, and what the outcome was. She did win this court case, and the buyers were required to repay the sellers the attorney's fees that they had spent. Okay, so one of the things that Rachel, our attorney, mentioned is that the buyer had unrealistic expectations. She did express after the interview that she is seeing this more and more. We found a survey that was done by Hippo, an insurance company, that this survey found that 78% of buyers have had regrets after purchasing their home. They said home ownership was way more expensive than expected, and in many places the prices are still very high with high interest rates, and that when they had unexpected issues, this caused them to have buyer's remorse. So this can unfortunately lead to buyers suing the seller, the agent, and sometimes even the broker in order to try and recoup some of that money. Many sellers don't know where to turn when this happens and will often settle in order to make this issue go away. So that is what Seller Shield is here for. With our home sale legal protection, we will hire the seller an attorney to fight whatever to defend whatever that legal issue is, and we will pay up to $75,000 of their legal fees. So we're going to get into that now. How can Seller's Shield help? So at Seller's Shield, we have seen two big problems in the transaction. And the first is that everyone has some type of legal protection except for home sellers. Brokers, agents, title, appraisers, inspectors all have E&O insurance, but home sellers are completely on their own if there is any type of legal issue. And like I said on my previous slide, a lot of sellers will choose to settle in order to get rid of this legal issue and make it go away. Second, if the seller gets sued, typically so does the agent and the broker, even if they did nothing wrong, which is very unfair. So we address these problems in two ways. First, we have our gold standard disclosure process. This is designed to help prevent legal issues and encourage accurate disclosure. It includes an instructional video, our legal tips, and an interactive seller's disclosure notice. And then second, sellers have the option to purchase home sale legal protection as they go through the disclosure process, and this will provide them with many benefits, including paid legal representation. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, we have about 1 in 5 home sellers who do purchase our home sale legal protection, and about 10% of agents purchase on behalf of their client, kind of as a value add for listing with you. So first up, our gold standard disclosure process. As you likely know, disclosure issues are the #1 cause of post-sale claims. In fact, 95% of claims stem from issues on the disclosure. Our disclosure process uses the same forms you're already using, but we have made it interactive. It provides tips, guidance, definitions, and has expandable fields for detailed responses. It also requires all questions to be answered and ensures that all signatures, initials, and dates are done. And then most importantly of all, this is completely free for you to send to your clients to complete their disclosure forms, and then free for your sellers to complete their disclosure forms as well. More complete and accurate disclosures help to reduce disputes and claims in the first place, since disclosure issues are the main cause of problems after the sale. And because no home is perfect, and even if your seller does disclose as accurately and completely as possible, they can still be sued. So this is why we created our home sale legal protection. As I said, sellers are typically the ones who purchase this, but we do have agents who purchase on their client's behalf. If there is any sign of trouble after the sale, whether that be a demand letter has been received, or just text messages or emails back and forth between the buyer and the seller themselves, or text messages and emails between you and the buyer's agent, whatever the case may be, we will immediately jump into action. We hire the seller an expert, local, qualified real estate attorney. We provide them with full support from start to finish. Again, regardless of how long those legal claims take, it can take months, it can take years. And then we will pay up to $75,000 of their legal fees to defend that legal issue. So this costs home sellers less than a 1-hour legal consultation, and we have no retainers and no deductibles. So now I'm going to show you a little demo of our product. We are now available in SkySlope. So if you sign into your SkySlope account, you will automatically be asked if you would like to send the disclosure forms through Seller Shield. So when you sign into SkySlope, you will go to create a new listing transaction. And then from there, you'll enter the property information. And then you will be asked if you would like to send the disclosure forms through Seller Shield. Now, if you have a client who doesn't use technology, or you've already sent the disclosure forms, whatever the case may be, you can choose no on this page. But if you choose yes, then you will be asked to select which forms you would like to send. We do have the EXP wire fraud notice and sorry, it's very small, the ABA, I believe. Yes, the associated business, we have that one as well. So those forms are in there for you to use if you would like to send those to your sellers as well. And then you will select which disclosure forms you would like to send. And then you also have the option to sign directly into Seller Shield if you would prefer to send the invite that way. You can do that at sellershield.com if you would like to. And then we just ask you to put in the property information and the seller's name and email, and then select the forms you would like to send. Then here is a peek into the gold standard disclosure process and what your sellers are going to see. So we do provide them with legal tips and an instructional video. We also provide them with definitions as they're going through the form, including items such as what is a French drain. We define that for the sellers inside the disclosure form so that they don't need to come to you and ask questions or look outside the form. We also point out common problem areas that have caused lawsuits in the past, letting sellers know, slow down, disclose as accurately as you can. You do have the option to track your seller's progress through your agent dashboard. You'll be able to see where they are in the process of filling out their disclosure, download the forms, send reminders to continue working on the forms. And then when sellers are done with their forms, they sign and date in our platform so that you receive a 100% complete, legible, easy to read disclosure form sent back to you every single time. All right, so to recap, we help to prevent claims from occurring with our free disclosure tool, and we resolve post-sale disputes before they escalate to mediation or lawsuits, and then this protects everyone in the transaction. So that is everything from me. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop those into the chat, and I will be happy to answer those. So we are not currently available in all 50 states, but I will put in, actually, if you scan that QR code that's up on the screen, that will take you to our EXP branded landing page, and you'll be able to see all of the states that we are available in. Email copy of the slides. I'm not sure on that one, but I will find out and let you know. I believe that EXP has a copy of these slides, so you should be able to get a copy of these. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to put those into the chat. Up on the screen here, I have our support options for Seller Shield. We do have a live chat in agent and seller dashboards and on our website, sellershield.com. Our support line is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central, and our customer success email address is answered 7 days a week. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact our support team and we'll be happy to help you. So the sellers coverage, we offer several options. Your sellers will be offered our 2 and our 4-year protection option, and our 2 years starts at $329. And then we also offer the ability to pay out of closing proceeds. So all of the info is on the website. Yes, sellershield.com. You can get all of the info, or if you just scan this QR code, there's a lot of great resources for you on that page. That's our, like I said, our EXP branded landing page. So you're welcome to go there, and all of this information will be there as well. Can sellers put this on current listings? Yes. So if you happen to have a seller who has already completed their disclosure forms, they can purchase the legal protection directly from our website, sellershield.com. They can purchase there. So if you have a seller who's already completed, they don't want to complete it digitally, whatever the case may be, they can always purchase directly from our website as well. All right. Any other questions that I can answer for you guys? If not, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. If you have any questions at all after this, feel free to reach out to our support team and we will be happy to answer those questions for you. You can access just sellershield.com, and that's just our regular website that you can go to. All right. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We look forward to working with all of you.